Hi, this is Isabel Litzer, Pleiad HC, the place to be to develop your skills and grow your potential. So this video is about failure. I know I talk a lot about how to grow your skills, about how to become better at whatever it is that you do, but I wanted to make a video about failure because I think it's also part of improving. You can't improve unless you've had some failures or unless you've had some difficulties that you had to overcome. This is part of the process. A lot of us want to avoid failures because we think that it's a bad thing, or especially in our cultures in Europe, we're very much failure avoidant, and we learn this at a very young age that we need to do very well in school, otherwise we don't get to the next level, and then we're going to be this bad student, and it's going to create issues to be accepted into universities. So I think there's a lot of pressure, at least in this part of the world. I know, having lived in the US, it's the same over there to some extent, especially when you're young, to have good grades, so that you can secure the best universities and therefore get the best jobs, etc. So at one point I was really believing that. I thought the path, that there was only one path, which was success. You have to do well every single step of the way, all the time, and always look for the next thing and progress and get the next best job, the next pay, better pay, usually, etc., etc. So that's what I believed. I would say for the first part of my career, I would say up until recently, that it was the path. But unfortunately, I was also faced with some difficulties in my career. And that left a really bad trace, in me, I would say, because I thought, okay, now I'm dealing with these issues, this is not what I expected. I've done everything right by the book, meaning I went to the right schools, I studied, etc. Why am I faced with all these issues? So I already saw all these issues as a negative. Why is this happening? Now that I had time to digest all these negative failures, I realized that it was actually a good thing, because all these failures led me to finding my path now, what I do, and which I really enjoy, and it's really my life mission, etc. But at that time, I really saw that as a failure, and it was quite painful and very hard to digest. So my message is basically is that failure probably will happen at some point, even to the most successful people. And the best thing is to be prepared and to know that it's not a bad thing. It's just basically, it's almost like a reassessment of things. And that's why I love doing skills assessment personally with individuals, because we get to look at the whole career and see where there were some gaps, some issues. And usually those issues are actually a good thing, because they were signaling to you that you were in the wrong life mission, in the wrong job, and you were wasting your time. So if you didn't have this failure, maybe, think about it. If I didn't have this failure, I would still be doing a job I hate, where I'm not aligned, where I'm unhappy, where going to work every day is just a pain in the stomach. So, if you think about it, it's not a bad thing. So my 3 tips would be, the first thing is look at it as a learning path. So again, don't look at just the culture that we live in Europe, but look at other philosophies in this world where actually every single event is actually an event that leads you closer to your life mission, to growing you as a person. So for this, I think the Indians are very good. In India, you have this philosophy of really improving yourself, and failure is part of life. Also in the Chinese culture. So in all these cultures, it's usually more integrated in life, that you will have some ups and you will have some downs, but it's okay. All of them lead to growing you as a person. So that's very helpful. At least for me, that was very helpful, because I'm getting to know more now about these cultures, and I realize that in my view, we get it wrong here in this part of the world, where we look at failures as such a bad thing, when it's actually helping your growth. So look at it as a learning experience and not as a failure. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, do your own skills assessment. Now, if you're not happy in your job, or you just failed in a job, see it as, am I aligned with what I'm doing right now? Could I do something different? Of course, there's different issues. If you're in Switzerland, maybe you can't do what you love because there's no job for you. You've been looking and there's no opportunity. I see a lot of people take a job more as a default job because they can't find anything else. I just had someone who sent me a message, asking me about, something she didn't really want to take as a job, but I told her to take it because it's still learning, it's still experience. And in this society that we live in, you need experience and you need to be employed. So an employer will always look at the employed person, not the unemployed person. So it's something to really juggle with. Sometimes you can't get the job that you were meant to do immediately. So you have to go through this non-interesting jobs or maybe difficult jobs for you, but at least you're employed until you find what it is that you want to do. And the third thing is really to have some distance from all of this, because again, the problem with our culture is that we don't take this distance. We're not into meditation, we're not into reflection. We tend to do. I mean, that's how I've been all my life, especially from Anglophone culture when I was studying. Very much, you have to always go for the next thing, always performing, always doing better. This is actually hurting us, I think, as individuals, because we don't really have time to think about what it is that we do, and we tend to go too fast. If there's one lesson I take from my career in the last years, I was working in the corporate sector. I was going too fast. I wanted to perform. I wanted to always do better, always go faster. And I ended up making a lot of issues around me because going fast usually doesn't mean it's the right way, or you're going to make the wrong decision. So for good decision making, you need a little bit of distance, thinking about the issue. There's some tips I can give you around this if you're working right now and you want help, because I've been through these issues myself in decision making. I've worked as a manager, so I had to make decisions every day, basically, which is part of being a manager. And I think I've made some decisions that weren't right because it was too fast. I had too much pressure, so this is not very good to make the right decision. So, but of course, you have management around you wanting you to make this decision. So that's why, in terms of making successful decisions, one good idea is to take this reflection time. Even if people around you pressure you to go faster, it's not the right way, especially big decisions that will impact your team, that will impact other people than you. You need to have this distance. So yeah, my last tip would be take the step back, make it a habit to wait one day before you reply to an email, for example. It's something I've actually put into my practice because I used to reply very quickly, and most of the time I upset a lot of people. So if you're in a very high pressure environment, especially, you're pushed to answer quickly, and then people will be upset anyway by whatever you're telling them. So that's why I think it's better to make it this habit that people will have to learn that you take a while to reply, but when you reply, you've had time to really digest the issue, think about all the different ways to answer, which one is the best one for everybody. So yeah, one lesson I learned, if I was to go back now into the corporate world, would be to go slower. And I know everyone around me would be annoyed because this is not the general trend. Trend is actually to go faster. But this is actually hurting organizations, I think. So again, thinking time, reflection time, in my view, is much, much better than haste decisions. So that's how you can also temper the failures, because usually when you take time to think about something, when you do it with patience and conscience and everything, it will probably be better decision and less failure potential than if you make this huge decision that will affect a team and everyone gets hurt. Or let's give an example, you fire somebody quickly because you had pressure to do it, or you put in place policies that everyone will hate, etc., etc. So there's just a lot of things to take into account, I think, in decision making that you need to weigh out. So yeah, that would be my last tip for this video, is really take time to do the right thing. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.